Caleb Turner stood near the arrivals gate, phone pressed to his ear, nodding at a conversation he no longer cared about. Wheels rolled across tile. Voices overlapped. Announcements echoed and faded. The place moved fast, but his mind stayed fixed on numbers, schedules, control. Then something broke through. 2 children passed him from the left. Small, steady, unrushed. They walked side by side, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. One reached out and held the other's sleeve, not afraid, not playful, just certain they belonged together. Their steps matched. Their silence matched. Caleb's body reacted before his thoughts did. His chest tightened. His breath shortened. His hand dropped from his ear, the call forgotten mid-sentence. He turned slowly, like he was afraid of what would happen if he moved too fast. They had stopped near the glass doors. The girl tilted her head slightly, watching people come and go. The boy stayed close, his posture alert, his attention outward. Caleb stared. There was something familiar in the way they stood, in the shape of their faces, in the calm that sat on them like something learned early. He had no reason to look twice. He did anyway, and his life shifted before he understood why. Caleb tried to look away. He told himself it was coincidence. Crowds created patterns, faces repeated. He had been working too much, sleeping too little. The mind filled gaps when it got tired. Still, his feet would not move. His pulse pressed hard against his ribs. Not fast, heavy, like each beat carried weight. He felt the urge to step closer and forced himself to stay where he was, as if distance might protect him from a truth he had not named. He studied the children without meaning to. The girl's eyes were calm but alert. She took everything in before reacting. The boy leaned in slightly, his body angled in front of hers, quiet and watchful. Neither smiled. Neither looked lost. They looked grounded. That was what unsettled him most. Not joy, not excitement. Presence. Caleb had seen that look before. In mirrors. In old photos he never shared. In moments when he chose restraint over impulse. His throat tightened. This made no sense. He had no children. He would know. There would have been a call. A message. Something. He swallowed and took one step forward. Then stopped. Because some realizations do not arrive with certainty. They arrive with fear first. And fear had already found him. Caleb leaned slightly to the side, just enough to see their faces clearly. That was when the denial failed. The girl turned fully toward him, her gaze steady, curious without need. Her eyes held the same quiet depth he saw every morning when he shaved. The same shape. The same distance between brow and cheek. The same calm that arrived before thought. The boy shifted his weight and looked up too. Caleb's breath caught. The jaw. The set of the mouth. The way his chin lifted when he studied someone older. That posture had been trained into Caleb by years of choosing control over comfort. This was no coincidence. This was inheritance. His hands began to shake, not violently, but enough that he noticed. He pressed his palms together, grounding himself, like he used to do during high-pressure negotiations. It did nothing. Time stretched. People passed between them. Bags bumped into legs. Someone laughed nearby. None of it touched him. All he could see were 2 children who carried pieces of him without knowing his name. A thought rose, unwanted and terrifying. If they were his, then someone had lived an entire life without him. And that absence had shape. It stood right in front of him. A shadow crossed the floor beside the children. A woman stepped forward and placed one hand on each of their shoulders. The motion was calm, protective, certain. Caleb knew her before he saw her face. Time had changed her, but not in the ways that mattered. Her posture stayed steady. Her expression stayed composed. Her eyes held the same clarity he remembered from years ago, only sharper now. Settled. Unafraid. She did not look surprised to see him. She looked prepared. The children leaned into her without thinking. The girl relaxed. The boy shifted back, his role complete. They trusted her without question. Caleb straightened slowly. Her gaze met his, and held. No anger showed there, no warmth either. What lived between them was control, earned through distance. The kind built by choosing self-respect every day, Even when it cost something, she had not come to explain. She had come to stand. Caleb opened his mouth, closed it again. He felt smaller than he had moments ago, not because she towered over him, but because she stood whole, untouched by the chaos rushing through his chest. Whatever this moment was, she owned it. And he understood, with a quiet ache, that he was a visitor inside a life she had built without him. Caleb lowered himself until he was eye level with the children. His voice came out quiet, careful. "My name is Caleb." The girl studied him for a long second. "You look like us," she said. He nodded once. "I know." He stood and turned back to the woman. His hands were still unsteady, so he held them together, like that might keep him from falling apart. "Are they mine?" he asked. She did not hesitate. "Yes," she said. "These are your children." The words landed clean. No edge, no drama. Final in their honesty. Something in Caleb's chest collapsed inward. Not loudly, slowly, like a structure giving way after holding too much for too long. If you are listening to this, pause for a moment. What would it feel like to face a life you missed without being warned first? To meet the result of a choice you never fixed? Before we go further, if you value stories that deal with responsibility, love, and the cost of decisions, take a second to subscribe. These stories are built to stay with you, not rush past you. Because this moment was not about reunion. It was about consequence. And everything Caleb believed about time, control, and second chances was about to be tested. Caleb Turner built his life around discipline. He woke early, trained his body with the same precision he brought to work, and measured his days by outcomes, not feelings. He believed consistency proved character. Control meant safety. If something could be planned, it should be planned. If something felt uncertain, it should be postponed. His career rewarded this mindset. Deadlines met. Teams managed. Decisions delivered without hesitation. People trusted him because he rarely reacted. He listened more than he spoke. When others rushed, he slowed the room down. But this same discipline shaped his inner life. He treated emotions like tasks waiting their turn. Feelings belonged after success, not before. Vulnerability felt inefficient. He did not reject emotion outright. He postponed it, believing there would be time later. Caleb saw himself as reliable, not cold. Steady, not distant. He took pride in being the person others leaned on during pressure. What he did not see was how this steadiness left little space for intimacy. Discipline built his reputation. Control built his routine. But identity formed only around strength leaves blind spots. Caleb did not notice those gaps yet. He believed order protected everyone involved. That belief would later cost him more than his career ever demanded. Caleb believed order solved most problems. He trusted systems. He trusted timing. He trusted that clarity came after patience. When conflict appeared, he did not avoid it. He contained it. He believed distance made things clearer. He delayed emotional responses the way others delayed gratification. If something felt intense, he set it aside. He told himself strong reactions distorted judgment. Calm preserved truth. This habit shaped his relationships. Friends described him as dependable. Colleagues praised his composure. Partners, though fewer, often struggled to name where they stood emotionally. Caleb assumed silence felt safer than messy honesty. He never raised his voice. He rarely argued. He believed this made him fair. What he missed was the quiet cost of delayed emotion. When feelings are postponed too long, they do not disappear. They wait. They harden. They look for weaker moments. Caleb trusted himself to manage pressure alone. He rarely asked for support. He did not like burdening others with unfinished thoughts or unresolved doubts. He believed strength meant carrying weight privately. This belief kept his life orderly. It also kept parts of him unreachable. Order without expression creates distance without intent. Caleb lived inside that distance long before he understood it. Caleb met Madeline through work, where rules shaped every interaction. Their first exchanges stayed professional, clear, focused, respectful. He noticed her attention to detail. She noticed his restraint. They worked late hours on shared projects, often in silence broken only by progress updates. There was no rush toward familiarity, no attempts to impress. What grew between them began as trust. Madeline respected how he listened. He respected how she spoke with purpose. She did not fill silence to ease it. He did not use authority to dominate it. They moved at the same pace. Caleb felt comfortable around her in a way he had not felt before. She did not demand emotional display. She valued consistency. She asked direct questions and waited for real answers. What drew him in was how steady she felt without being closed. She expressed her thoughts clearly. She expected clarity in return. At work, this balance worked well. Outside of work, it would ask more of him. At the time, Caleb believed shared competence formed the strongest foundation. He did not yet see the difference between mutual respect and emotional access. Their connection did not start with desire. It started with recognition. They noticed how the other handled pressure, how decisions were made, how mistakes were owned. Caleb admired Madeline's boundaries. She did not seek approval. She stated expectations without apology. He respected that. It aligned with his belief in structure. Romance arrived slowly. Conversations extended beyond tasks. Walks replaced meetings. Silence became shared, not separate. When affection appeared, it felt earned. There was no chaos, no dramatic declarations. Their bond formed through reliability. Each showed up as promised. Each followed through. Caleb believed this was the ideal way to love. Calm, controlled, predictable. What he did not notice was how much effort Madeline placed into emotional clarity. She named her feelings. She spoke about needs. She invited him to do the same. He listened. He nodded. He agreed. He did not always respond with equal openness. He believed consistency mattered more than expression. Madeline believed both mattered. Respect created attraction. Attraction grew into commitment. Yet beneath the calm, one imbalance stayed unaddressed. Their love stayed quiet by design. No public displays. No emotional swings. Friends saw them as stable, uncomplicated, grounded. Caleb liked that nothing felt out of control. He believed peace meant success. He thought avoiding emotional extremes protected the relationship. Madeline valued the calm but did not confuse it with absence of feeling. She shared her inner world in careful ways. She trusted Caleb to meet her there. At times, he did. At times, he retreated into habit. He showed love through actions, through reliability, through presence. He believed this spoke louder than words. He did not always realize when silence created uncertainty instead of comfort. Madeline did not demand more. She observed. She listened. She noted where his strength stopped short of openness. The relationship worked because she carried emotional awareness, while he carried stability. Neither role was spoken aloud. Quiet love can thrive, but quiet love still needs honesty. Caleb assumed peace meant nothing needed fixing. He did not understand how unspoken gaps grow when left untouched. Caleb valued stability above all. Predictable days, controlled reactions, measured choices. He believed these protected love from damage. Vulnerability felt risky. It asked for exposure without guarantee. He believed revealing doubts might weaken trust. He did not want to introduce uncertainty, so he avoided sharing internal strain. He managed stress alone. He carried pressure silently. He believed this made him dependable. What he missed was how withholding inner truth creates distance. Madeline did not need perfection. She needed access. Caleb believed trust grew from reliability. Madeline believed trust deepened through honesty. He did not lie. He did not deceive. He withheld. That distinction mattered to him. It mattered differently to her. Self-control without honesty does not prevent harm. It delays it. By the time Caleb realized stability alone was not enough, patterns had already formed. And patterns, once set, shape consequences. Madeline did not treat emotions as impulses to follow or suppress. She treated them as information to understand. She noticed patterns in herself early. What unsettled her? What grounded her? What made her withdraw? She paid attention before reacting. This awareness shaped how she moved through life. She asked questions before assuming. She listened for what was said and what stayed unsaid. When something felt off, she named it internally, instead of ignoring it. Madeline believed clarity protected people from harm. Confusion created openings for pain. She did not avoid difficult feelings. She approached them with patience. This did not make her rigid. It made her intentional. She could hold space for discomfort without losing direction. She understood that love required presence, not guesswork. In relationships, she did not rush emotional steps. She watched how people handled stress, how they responded when challenged, how they treated silence. Emotional intelligence, for Madeline, was not about being calm all the time. It was about being honest with herself first. That honesty became the foundation for how she chose others. She did not seek perfection. She sought awareness. That choice shaped every boundary she later held. Madeline never entered love looking to be completed. She had a life that worked, responsibilities she handled, values she protected. Romance was an addition, not an escape. She loved with direction. She paid attention to how connection developed and why. When feelings grew, she asked herself if they aligned with her principles or challenged them. This made her patient. She did not mistake attention for commitment. She did not confuse attraction with safety. She believed love should expand peace, not replace it. When she chose Caleb, it was not because she feared being alone. It was because his steadiness matched her sense of order. His restraint mirrored her own discipline. Madeline did not chase reassurance. She expected consistency. When she offered affection, it came without manipulation. When she withheld it, it was to maintain balance, not control. This approach required self-trust. She trusted her judgment. She trusted her pace. She trusted that rushing love often hid unmet needs. Loving with intention meant she stayed present even when excitement faded. It also meant she stayed alert when something felt misaligned. Desperation was never part of her language. Choice was. Madeline's expectations were clear, even when unspoken. Loyalty mattered, not as performance, but as behavior shown under pressure. Safety mattered. Emotional safety as much as physical. She believed commitment meant protection. Protecting time, protecting trust, protecting the bond when no one else was watching. Madeline did not tolerate half choices. She believed loyalty lived in small decisions made daily. Messages not sent, boundaries not crossed, transparency maintained even when inconvenient. Safety, to her, meant she could be fully herself without guarding parts of her identity. It meant disagreements stayed respectful. It meant silence did not hide truth. She did not demand constant reassurance. She demanded consistency. When something felt uncertain, she addressed it directly. Not with accusation, but with clarity. Madeline understood that love without safety eventually turned into endurance. She had no interest in enduring relationships. Her expectations were not excessive. They were firm. Loyalty was non-negotiable. Safety was essential. Anyone who entered her life did so knowing those standards existed. She never lowered them to keep someone close. Madeline trusted Caleb because his actions matched his words, at least in the beginning. He showed restraint. He respected boundaries. He listened without rushing to correct. He did not pressure her emotionally. He did not test limits. He showed reliability through follow-through, not charm. She trusted his discipline. It aligned with her own belief in structure. His calm presence felt safe, predictable, grounded. Caleb did not seek attention from others. He focused on his responsibilities. He valued order. This reassured Madeline. She believed someone who valued order would protect what they built. Trust, for her, grew through observation. She watched how he handled conflict at work, how he responded to setbacks, how he treated people without leverage. She did not idealize him. She accepted him as a man still learning emotional openness. She believed growth could happen inside safety. What she trusted was his character, not perfection. That trust was not blind. It was informed, which made its loss later feel final. Madeline lived by rules she set for herself long before Caleb entered her life. These rules were quiet, internal, uncompromising. She did not stay where she felt diminished. She did not negotiate her worth. She did not remain silent to preserve comfort. Self-respect to her was consistency with her values, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. She believed love should never require self-abandonment. If a relationship asked her to shrink, it was already unsafe. These rules guided her reactions. She did not explode when hurt. She withdrew when trust broke. Distance was not punishment. It was protection. Madeline understood that people showed their priorities through behavior. When actions contradicted words, she believed the actions. Her self-respect did not make her harsh. It made her decisive. She did not linger in uncertainty hoping for change. Once a line was crossed, she acted. Those inner rules later shaped every choice she made as a mother. They became the shield around her children's lives. Madeline never used boundaries to dominate others. She used them to protect connection. Clear limits made relationships healthier, not colder. She stated expectations early. She clarified consequences quietly. She did not threaten. She informed. When boundaries were respected, she relaxed fully. When they were questioned, she paid attention. Repeated pressure signaled misalignment. Madeline did not confuse flexibility with compromise of values. She adjusted habits. She did not adjust principles. Boundaries allowed her to love freely without fear. They created space where trust could grow without constant vigilance. She understood that people who respected boundaries rarely resented them. Those who challenged them revealed their discomfort with accountability. Madeline did not argue about her limits. She lived them. This approach made her relationships simpler. Fewer misunderstandings. Clearer choices. Boundaries were not walls. They were doors with conditions. Those conditions kept her life peaceful long before chaos ever arrived. Madeline believed love required moral clarity, not rigid rules, but clear values guiding decisions. She did not believe love excused harm. She did not believe good intentions erased impact. She believed accountability strengthened connection. When she loved, she did so fully. When she withdrew, it was complete. She did not linger in between. This clarity made her trustworthy. People knew where they stood with her. There were no mixed signals, no emotional leverage. Madeline understood that staying true to herself taught others how to treat her. She did not wait for permission to honor her boundaries. Love to her grew where limits stayed intact, where respect remained consistent, where truth was spoken before damage spread. She carried this belief into every role she later held. Partner, mother, protector. Her strength did not come from confrontation. It came from alignment, and that alignment would soon be tested in ways she never planned for. Callista Rowe did not enter Caleb's life loudly. She reappeared quietly, through a professional overlap that felt harmless at first. A familiar name, a scheduled meeting, a shared history Caleb believed no longer mattered. Their past had ended years earlier. No drama, no closure conversation worth remembering. Callista had known a younger version of him, less grounded, less careful. She remembered his habits, his blind spots. Caleb did not seek her out. He did not expect anything from the interaction. That belief became the opening. Callista spoke with ease. She referenced shared experiences without nostalgia. She asked questions framed as concern. She listened closely. There was no flirtation at first, only familiarity, and familiarity lowers guard faster than desire ever does. Caleb told himself this connection belonged to the past. He believed boundaries were already in place because intent was absent. What he did not account for was timing. Old connections gain power when life feels heavy. Callista did not push. She waited. Re-entry does not always arrive as temptation. Sometimes it arrives as comfort. Caleb's life tightened during that period. Deadlines overlapped. Expectations stacked. Responsibility followed him home each night. He slept less, ate less, spoke less. At work, his composure stayed intact. Inside, strain built quietly. He carried it alone, believing that was what strength required. Madeline noticed the change. She asked questions. She offered space. She trusted him to speak when ready. Caleb delayed again. Pressure narrowed his world. Conversations became shorter. Evenings passed in silence he mistook for peace. This was when Callista's messages began to arrive more often. Short notes, observations, shared jokes from the past. Nothing explicit, nothing that felt dangerous. They landed during moments of exhaustion, during pauses when Caleb felt unseen, not unloved, but unexpressed. He responded without thought, without pause, without reflection. The season mattered more than the person. Stress weakens boundaries that feel secure. Caleb did not feel drawn to Callista. He felt relieved to speak without explanation. That relief became a habit. Caleb did not feel excitement. He felt tired. His exchanges with Callista lacked romance. They held familiarity, ease, no expectations. That ease became the problem. He did not question why he replied so quickly. He did not consider why those messages felt lighter than the silence waiting at home. This was not about attraction. It was about escape from emotional effort. Madeline required presence. She required honesty. She noticed shifts and named them. That demanded engagement. Callista required nothing. Caleb mistook that absence of demand for safety. He told himself nothing physical had happened. That intention mattered. That context softened impact. What he failed to see was how emotional shortcuts undermine trust long before physical lines are crossed. Fatigue dulls judgment. Convenience feels harmless when energy runs low. Caleb believed he was managing stress. He was avoiding it. And avoidance, once normalized, creates its own damage. The messages stayed brief, casual, familiar. They arrived late, early, in between meetings, during moments when Caleb felt most detached from himself. There was no explicit language, no declarations, no promises. That made them easier to justify. Callista asked how he was holding up. She commented on shared memories. She listened. Caleb shared frustrations he never voiced at home. He edited his truth without meaning to. He left out the parts that would expose his weakness. Each reply crossed a line he refused to name. The content alone seemed harmless. The pattern was not. Messages form intimacy when repetition replaces distance. Caleb ignored that fact. He told himself transparency mattered only when intent existed. He was wrong. The messages created a private space Madeline did not know existed. Privacy without agreement becomes secrecy. And secrecy, even quiet, reshapes trust. Madeline did not go looking. The phone lit up on the table. A name she did not expect. A preview that did not belong. She read without panic. Without anger, with a growing stillness. The messages unfolded slowly. Familiar tone, emotional access, repetition. She sat down. Nothing about the content shocked her. The volume did. This was not a single mistake. It was a pattern. Sustained, chosen. Madeline did not cry. She did not call out. She did not interrupt his day. She closed the phone and placed it back where she found it. Her mind moved faster than her body. She traced timelines, considered moments, noted absences. Trust did not shatter. It withdrew. She understood immediately what this meant, not because of jealousy, because of clarity. Caleb had shared parts of himself elsewhere, and that choice stood complete on its own. Madeline did not confront him that night. She cooked. She cleaned. She listened. Caleb spoke about work. She nodded. She asked neutral questions. He did not notice the shift. Silence looked familiar to him. For Madeline, this silence carried decision. She did not believe shouting repaired trust. She did not believe explanations changed patterns already formed. She believed actions spoke loudest when left uninterrupted. That night, she slept without touching him. By morning, her resolve settled. She did not need a confession. She had evidence. Silence was not weakness. It was assessment. Madeline understood that confronting too soon often invited persuasion instead of truth. She chose observation over reaction, and that choice clarified everything. Madeline packed quietly, only essentials, documents, clothes, things that belonged to her alone. She moved with purpose, no hesitation, no delay. Leaving was not impulsive. It was aligned with rules she set long before this moment. Caleb was at work when she left. She did not leave a note explaining herself. She left space. She understood that explanations sometimes ease the one who caused harm more than the one who received it. This was not punishment. It was protection. Madeline chose distance because trust had shifted. And when trust shifts, proximity becomes unsafe. She walked away before grief could negotiate on his behalf. Leaving early preserved clarity, and clarity mattered more than closure. Pause here. If you discovered betrayal without raised voices, without obvious signs, how would you respond? Would you confront immediately? Would you wait? Would you leave quietly? Many betrayals arrive without chaos. No shouting. No scenes. Just proof where trust used to live. If stories like this help you reflect on real choices and real consequences, take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts below. Your perspective matters here, because what happened next was not driven by anger. It was driven by self-respect. And that changes everything. Caleb did not know she was gone until hours later. By then, the choice was already complete. Betrayal does not require drama to cause damage. It requires repetition, silence, a decision to seek comfort outside honesty. Caleb believed he had avoided harm because nothing physical occurred. Madeline knew trust breaks earlier than that. This lesson did not arrive loudly. It settled. Betrayal reshapes futures quietly. It redraws boundaries without announcement. Madeline carried this truth forward. Caleb would learn it later, and the cost would follow both of them into every choice that came next. Madeline left before closure could soften her resolve. She did not wait for an explanation or a promise of change. She understood how easily words could follow guilt. She chose action instead. The departure was deliberate. She closed the door on a version of life that no longer felt safe. Closure to her was not a conversation. It was alignment between choice and self-respect. She moved through the days that followed with focus. She changed routines. She limited contact. She allowed grief to exist without letting it redirect her path. Madeline did not rehearse imagined conversations. She did not ask herself what he might say. Those questions belonged to a future she no longer planned to enter. Leaving without closure protected her clarity. It prevented negotiation with doubt. It allowed her to move forward without carrying unfinished exchanges. She believed some endings did not require agreement from both sides. They required decision from one. This choice was not driven by anger. It was driven by understanding. Trust had shifted. Remaining would require compromise she would not make. She walked away whole, even while hurting. Life after leaving demanded adjustment. Madeline built new rhythms around independence. She focused on work. She leaned into routine. She kept her days structured. She allowed sadness without indulging it. She did not rush healing. She accepted that some pain needed time, not explanation. Madeline stayed intentional about her environment. She chose spaces that felt steady. She avoided places tied to memory. She protected her peace with quiet discipline. Her decision remained firm even as loneliness appeared. She reminded herself why she left. She trusted the reasoning she made while clear-minded. Friends asked questions. She offered simple answers. She did not share details. She believed oversharing reopened wounds. Madeline learned that distance did not erase connection. It reshaped it. Memories surfaced without control. She acknowledged them without retreating. This period taught her resilience without hardening. She stayed open to life while guarded about trust. She did not see herself as starting over. She saw herself continuing with integrity. The discovery arrived quietly. A missed cycle. Subtle fatigue. Changes she could not ignore. Madeline confirmed it alone. The result sat heavy in her hands. Not fear yet. Awareness. She sat still for a long time, letting the information settle. This was not panic. This was recalibration. Her first thought was responsibility. Her second was safety. She did not consider reaching out. She did not seek comfort elsewhere. Pregnancy reframed everything. It shifted her timeline. It sharpened her priorities. She understood the weight of what this meant. Life would now extend beyond her own choices. Madeline did not feel regret. She felt gravity. She began planning immediately. Medical appointments, financial adjustments, space. She did not tell anyone right away. She needed clarity before sharing news shaped by emotion. This discovery deepened her resolve. Leaving had already been the right decision. This only confirmed it. Her life was no longer about recovery alone. It was about protection. The confirmation came during a routine visit. The practitioner paused, adjusted the screen, smiled softly. Twins, The word landed differently than she expected. Surprise, followed by a deeper silence. Madeline processed quickly. 2 lives, 2 futures, twice the responsibility. Fear arrived then, measured and real. She acknowledged it without letting it lead. She asked questions. She listened carefully. Twins meant more planning, more resources, more endurance. It also meant more purpose. She left the appointment with a clear understanding of what lay ahead. There was no room for uncertainty now. Madeline did not romanticize the challenge. She respected it. That night, she sat alone and spoke aloud, grounding herself in reality. She would do this. She would do it well. Twins did not overwhelm her. They clarified her strength. She understood then that her choices would echo farther than she imagined. And she accepted that weight fully. Fear did not paralyze Madeline. It sharpened her focus. She acknowledged the unknowns: health, finances, support. She addressed each with planning, not hope alone. Resolve followed fear naturally. She did not ask whether she was ready. She decided she would be. Madeline structured her life around preparation. She researched. She adjusted schedules. She sought stability without dependency. She did not reach out to Caleb, not out of pride, but out of principle. Trust had not returned. Pregnancy did not change that fact. Her resolve was not cold. It was protective. She believed bringing children into a fractured trust environment created confusion. She chose clarity instead. Fear reminded her what mattered. Resolve ensured she acted on it. She did not rush decisions. She committed to them. Each day reinforced her belief that strength came from alignment, not reaction. This was not survival mode. This was intentional building. Distance was not avoidance. It was strategy. Madeline chose distance to preserve stability. Emotional volatility had no place in the foundation she was building. She understood that reconnecting too soon would invite pressure, explanations, negotiations, emotional weight she did not owe. Distance allowed her to remain steady. It gave her space to focus on health, planning, and peace. She did not block the past out of bitterness. She set it aside until safety could be guaranteed. Madeline believed proximity without trust created confusion. Distance without anger created clarity. Her choice was not meant to punish. It was meant to protect lives still forming. She prepared to raise her children without resentment. That required emotional discipline. Distance kept her aligned with her values. And alignment mattered more than comfort. Madeline never sought revenge. It did not interest her. She did not wish harm. She did not speak poorly. She did not rewrite history to suit pain. Her focus remained forward. Protection guided every decision. Protecting emotional health. Protecting future stability. Protecting children from unresolved conflict. Revenge would have required energy she needed elsewhere. It would have anchored her to the past. Madeline chose release instead. She believed the absence of retaliation was strength, not weakness. It allowed her to remain centered. Protection meant silence at times. It meant restraint. It meant choosing long-term peace over short-term validation. Her actions reflected maturity shaped by values, not emotion. She did not need to prove anything. She needed to build something safe. Distance is often misunderstood. Madeline knew it could be an act of care. For herself, for others, for futures not yet lived. By choosing distance, she preserved dignity. She avoided entanglement. She created space where healing could occur without pressure. She did not close doors forever. She closed them until alignment returned. This choice required courage. Staying might have felt easier in the moment. Leaving protected what mattered most. Distance allowed her to raise her children without confusion, without unresolved tension, without instability. Cruelty seeks harm. Distance seeks safety. Madeline understood the difference. This lesson would shape her motherhood. It would guide her boundaries. It would define how she rebuilt trust later. Distance, when chosen with care, becomes a form of love. The early years demanded more from Madeline than she had ever given before. Days began before sunrise and ended long after exhaustion set in. There was no shared schedule, no backup plan waiting in another room. Every decision rested on her shoulders. She learned quickly how to function on limited sleep and steady resolve. Feedings, appointments, and routines formed the structure of their lives. She created order where chaos could have taken hold. Madeline did not romanticize the challenge. She accepted it. Responsibility sharpened her focus. She measured time in small wins. A quiet nap, a healthy checkup, a peaceful evening. Loneliness visited often, but she did not let it lead. She reminded herself why she chose this path. Stability mattered more than comfort. She became efficient without becoming cold, caring without becoming overwhelmed. Those early years shaped her endurance. They taught her patience that did not rely on praise or relief. She learned that strength often shows up quietly, without witnesses. Her children grew in that steady environment. They learned safety through repetition. Through presence, Madeline did not feel heroic. She felt committed. Noor noticed things early. She watched before acting. She listened before speaking. Madeline saw herself reflected in her daughter's calm observation. Noor did not rush emotions. She absorbed them. As Noor grew, she asked thoughtful questions, not many, just enough. She sensed when moments carried weight. She stayed close during uncertainty. Madeline never rushed Noor's awareness. She allowed it to grow naturally. She answered questions honestly without burdening her. Noor learned empathy through environment, not instruction. She watched how her mother handled pressure, how she responded to difficulty without sharpness. Gentleness did not mean weakness. Noor showed resilience through quiet steadiness. She adapted easily to routines. She comforted her brother without being asked. Madeline protected Noor's sensitivity. She understood it was a strength, not something to harden. In Noor, she saw proof that calm presence shapes character deeply. The child learned awareness by living inside it daily. The boy developed a different strength. He watched outward. He positioned himself between Noor and unfamiliar spaces. His protectiveness showed early. He noticed changes in rooms. He reacted quickly when Noor felt uncertain. Madeline observed this instinct with care. She guided it without discouraging it. Protection, she believed, should not turn into fear. She taught him to ask questions, to wait, to trust her presence. Protection did not require tension. The boy learned responsibility early, not burden, but awareness. He understood his role without being assigned one. Madeline never praised him for guarding. She praised him for kindness. She wanted strength rooted in care, not control. Over time, his instinct balanced. He stayed watchful without becoming rigid. He learned when to step forward and when to relax. This balance came from environment. Calm consistency shaped his confidence. He learned that safety came from trust, not constant vigilance. Madeline parented with intention. She believed children learned more from atmosphere than instruction. She valued routine. Predictability created safety. Meals happened on time. Bedtime followed structure. Promises were kept. She spoke calmly, even when tired. She corrected without shame. She believed discipline should guide, not intimidate. Madeline encouraged questions. She welcomed curiosity. She answered honestly within age-appropriate boundaries. She modeled accountability. When she made mistakes, she acknowledged them. This taught humility without weakening authority. Her values centered on respect. Respect for self. Respect for others. Respect for truth. She did not seek perfection. She sought alignment between words and actions. These values formed the foundation of their home. They created stability without rigidity. Children raised in clarity grow secure. Madeline understood that. She did not parent loudly. She parented consistently. Madeline spoke about their father with care. She did not erase him. She did not distort him. When questions arose, she answered simply. He made choices, she said. So did I. She avoided blame. She avoided bitterness. She believed children should not carry adult conflict. Madeline understood that resentment spoken aloud shapes identity. She chose neutrality grounded in truth. She did not protect him at the cost of honesty. She did not attack him to justify her pain. This balance required discipline. Silence would have been easier. Anger would have felt validating. She chose responsibility instead. Her children learned that people are complex, that mistakes exist, that character is revealed through actions over time. By speaking calmly, She preserved their right to form their own understanding later. She believed that truth spoken without heat carried more weight. Money required careful management. Madeline planned every expense. She prioritized essentials. She adjusted without complaint. She did not discuss stress openly in front of the children. She managed it privately. They felt stability, even when resources were tight. Madeline believed financial strain should not define childhood. She made sacrifices quietly. She delayed personal needs. She tracked budgets. She planned ahead. She avoided unnecessary risk. This discipline created security. The children did not feel scarcity. They felt consistency. Madeline did not ask for sympathy. She asked herself how to adapt. Financial strain sharpened her focus. It taught her resilience without resentment. She proved that responsibility often shows up in silence. Emotional strain arrived differently. Loneliness, fatigue, uncertainty. Madeline addressed it through structure. She created rituals, morning routines, evening reflections. She allowed herself moments of rest. She sought quiet spaces. She did not lean on her children emotionally. She protected them from adult weight. Madeline believed emotional discipline preserved family balance. Children deserved freedom from unresolved stress. She processed privately. She journaled. She reflected. This discipline allowed her to remain present without collapse. Her calm presence taught her children emotional regulation through example. They learned that feelings did not control behavior. Awareness guided response. Consistency shaped everything. The same tone, the same routines, the same values. Children raised inside calm consistency learn trust without explanation. They grow secure without fear. Madeline understood this deeply. She lived it daily. She did not swing between extremes. She remained steady through change. Her children absorbed this rhythm. It became part of who they were. Character forms through repetition. Calm behavior modeled daily becomes internal law. Madeline's strength showed quietly in the lives she shaped. Children learned character from calm consistency, and those lessons would follow Noor and her brother into every space they entered. Caleb realized Madeline was gone in stages. At first, he assumed distance meant pause, space, time to cool down. He told himself she would reach out once emotions settled. Days passed, then weeks. Her absence stopped feeling temporary. It settled into his routines. Her side of the closet stayed empty. Her number stayed silent. Caleb understood then that this was not a break. It was an ending. He replayed his last days with her, not searching for arguments, but for moments he missed. Silence that should have been questioned. Calm that masked withdrawal. He accepted that her leaving was deliberate, thought through, aligned with values he once admired. This realization did not arrive with panic. It arrived with weight. A quiet certainty that she had chosen herself over explanation. Caleb did not blame her. He understood her rules. He had lived beside them. That understanding deepened the loss. He recognized that trust, once shifted, rarely returns to its original place. Some decisions close doors without needing confrontation. Madeline's absence marked a boundary he could not cross. Regret did not strike all at once. It crept in gradually, filling quiet moments. At first, Caleb focused on logistics. Work filled his days. Structure filled his time. Then the silence widened. He noticed the absence in small ways. Meals eaten alone. Decisions made without discussion. Evenings without shared presence. Regret sharpened as clarity increased. He did not regret being tired. He regretted withholding truth. He saw how convenience had replaced honesty, how fatigue became excuse. Caleb did not dramatize his mistakes. He named them. He recognized how patterns formed without intention. Regret became a companion, not an enemy. It followed him through years. It did not demand attention. It waited. He learned that regret grows when responsibility is acknowledged without defense. This was not self-punishment. It was awareness. And awareness changes how a person moves forward. Caleb did not chase Madeline. He considered it. The urge appeared often. Apologies formed in his mind. Explanations followed. He resisted. He knew chasing would serve his need, not her safety. He understood persuasion often masquerades as remorse. Caleb respected her decision even as it hurt. He believed boundaries mattered most when inconvenient. He did not send messages asking for another chance. He did not involve others to bridge the gap. He did not show up uninvited. This restraint cost him comfort. It preserved her autonomy. Caleb accepted that remorse does not grant access. Accountability requires patience. He worked on himself privately. He sought clarity without audience. This refusal to manipulate became an act of growth. It marked the first time he prioritized respect over relief. Letting go without control tested him deeply. But he stayed. Absence became Caleb's teacher, not as revenge. As consequence, he lived inside unanswered questions. He carried responsibility without resolution. Madeline's absence removed comfort. It removed reassurance. It removed familiarity. Caleb learned that punishment does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it appears as ordinary days without shared meaning. He felt the cost in moments that should have been shared. Achievements without celebration. Setbacks without support. Absence stripped him of distraction. It forced reflection. He did not numb it. He allowed it. This absence reshaped his understanding of trust. It taught him how easily trust fractures and how slowly it rebuilds. Caleb did not seek replacement. He did not fill the space. He let absence stand as it was. And in that space, growth took root. Years passed without closure. No final conversation. No mutual understanding reached. Just time moving forward. Caleb learned to live with unresolved endings. He accepted that closure is not always granted by others. He found it internally through responsibility. He adjusted his expectations. He released the idea of fixing the past. He focused on integrity in the present. This period matured him quietly. He became more attentive, more transparent, more grounded. He did not share his story widely. He carried it privately. Years without closure taught him patience. It taught him humility. He learned that some lessons require endurance, not explanation. Forgiveness, if it came, would arrive later. Or not at all. Either way, he remained accountable. Caleb learned that some losses teach patience before forgiveness appears. He stopped waiting for permission to grow. He chose growth because it was necessary. Patience became his discipline. He practiced it daily, in decisions, in interactions, in silence. He accepted that forgiveness, if offered, must be earned over time, not requested under pressure. Caleb allowed life to unfold without forcing resolution. This patience reshaped him. It prepared him for responsibility he did not yet know awaited him. He became someone who valued truth spoken early, someone who understood that avoidance carries cost. Loss did not define him. Response did. And patience, learned through absence, became his foundation. The airport did not pause for personal reckoning. People moved with purpose. Announcements continued. Life flowed forward without regard for what was about to surface. Caleb stood where he had stopped earlier, still rooted in the moment that refused to pass. The space around him felt unfamiliar now, as if the ground itself had shifted slightly off-center. He watched the children again. Their movements remained measured. No running, no pulling away. They stayed close to each other, connected without needing instruction. The environment stayed loud, but his awareness narrowed. He noticed posture, pace, direction. This was not chance passing. This was presence crossing paths with absence. Caleb felt the weight of time compress. Years folded inward. The distance he once accepted as consequence now stood within reach. He did not step forward yet. He observed, because some moments require stillness before action, and this moment carried too much truth to rush. The twins moved as a unit. The girl walked slightly ahead, her steps careful but confident. She looked around with curiosity, not fear. The boy stayed half a step behind, his shoulder angled inward, his eyes scanned outward. They mirrored each other without effort. Shared awareness, shared calm. Caleb recognized that calm immediately. It was learned, not inherited. Their behavior spoke of structure, of guidance, of consistency. Noor paused near the doors and adjusted her bag. Her brother watched the crowd until she finished, then relaxed again. Neither child fidgeted. Neither showed impatience. They belonged to an environment built on order. Caleb felt a sharp recognition. This steadiness did not come from accident. It came from daily reinforcement. He saw Madeline's presence reflected in them even before she stepped forward. The twins carried her discipline, her care. They were not lost children passing through a crowd. They were grounded. Madeline approached without urgency. Her steps were unhurried, her posture straight. She placed a hand on each child's shoulder, anchoring them gently. The touch was light but firm. She did not look around for confirmation. She knew where she stood. Her expression held control shaped by years of choice. No anger surfaced. No warmth softened her stance. She met Caleb's gaze evenly. This composure did not come from detachment. It came from resolution. Madeline had already made peace with outcomes. She was not here to negotiate. Her presence commanded the space without demanding attention. People passed by without noticing the gravity unfolding nearby. Caleb felt the contrast sharply. His internal noise met her calm clarity. She had built a life that did not require his participation. That truth settled between them without needing words. Caleb moved slowly. He lowered himself to their height, careful not to startle. His knees bent. His hands rested loosely in front of him. He did not reach out. He understood instinctively that proximity required permission. "My name is Caleb," he said quietly. The words felt insufficient. He let them stand anyway. Noor studied him closely. Not suspicious, not impressed. Observant. The boy did not move. His eyes stayed fixed on Caleb's face, measuring. Caleb kept his voice steady. He did not attempt humor. He did not soften the moment with charm. He respected the seriousness of it. Lowering himself was not symbolic. It was instinctual. He wanted to meet them where they stood, not where authority assumed space. This was the first time he chose humility without strategy. And it mattered. Noor tilted her head slightly. "You look like us," she said. The observation landed without judgment, just fact. Caleb nodded once. "I know." Noor did not smile. She did not withdraw. She accepted the exchange and continued watching him. Her voice carried certainty beyond her years. She trusted her perception. Madeline did not intervene. She allowed the moment to unfold. Noor's words held more weight than any explanation Caleb could offer. They acknowledged connection without claiming it. Caleb felt something shift inside him. Recognition without entitlement. Noor did not ask questions. She made statements, and in doing so, she defined the tone of the encounter. The boy stayed quiet. He watched every movement, every pause. He noticed Caleb's hands, his posture, his restraint. Protection guided his presence, not fear. When Caleb spoke, the boy leaned slightly closer to Noor, not to shield, to stand ready. Madeline observed without correcting. She trusted her son's instinct. This silence communicated boundaries clearly. Acceptance was not automatic. Observation came first. Caleb respected that. He did not attempt to fill the space with reassurance. He allowed silence to exist. The boy's quiet watch confirmed what Madeline had built. Awareness, caution, strength, trust, if earned, would arrive later. Caleb rose slowly. His voice steadied as he turned back to Madeline. "Are they mine?" he asked. He did not add context. He did not soften the question. Madeline did not hesitate. "Yes," she said. "These are your children." Her tone remained even. Final. The truth landed without drama. Caleb absorbed it fully. His chest tightened. His breath slowed. This confirmation did not offer relief. It offered responsibility. The moment did not invite celebration. It demanded reckoning. Madeline spoke next. "You hurt me once," she said. "I built my life around never letting that happen again." Her words carried no accusation. They carried history. Her words carried no accusation. They carried history. She did not raise her voice. She did not explain further. The boundary stood complete. Caleb nodded. He accepted it without defense. This statement defined the future before it began. Presence would not erase harm. Time would not soften rules. Trust would require proof. And Madeline would decide the pace. Pause here. Do you believe presence alone can rebuild trust? Or does trust demand consistency before closeness? Share your thoughts below. Your perspective adds depth to this story. If you value stories that explore responsibility, boundaries, and real consequences, subscribe now. These narratives are built to challenge and reflect, not rush, because truth lands harder when spoken calmly. And this truth changed every life standing in that terminal. Caleb did not arrive with expectations. He did not ask for time alone with the children. He did not request explanations or reassurances. He showed up where he was allowed and stayed within that space. He learned quickly that presence was permission-based. Visits happened on Madeline's terms. Locations were neutral. Timing was clear. There were no surprises. Caleb accepted this structure without resistance. He understood that access was not owed. It was evaluated. He arrived early. He left when time ended. He followed routines without commentary. When plans changed, he adjusted. This restraint marked a shift in him. He no longer equated leadership with control. He understood that reliability mattered more than assertion. The twins noticed consistency, not effort, not apology, just repetition. Caleb spoke when spoken to. He listened more than he explained. He resisted the urge to define himself. Fatherhood, he realized, did not begin with recognition. It began with restraint. Caleb focused on routines, meals, schedules, transitions. He watched how Madeline managed their days, how she signaled changes, how she corrected gently, how structure replaced command. He mirrored without imitation. He learned rather than led. Caleb did not attempt to discipline. He did not override decisions. He asked questions privately. This approach required patience. It challenged habits built in leadership roles. He had to release control without withdrawing. Routines taught him rhythm. Predictability built safety. Authority emerged from consistency, not volume. The twins responded gradually, not with excitement, but with acceptance. Caleb understood that routines carried meaning. They reflected values. They communicated care. He stopped thinking about what a father should look like. He focused on what the children needed. Learning replaced asserting, and learning reshaped him. Madeline set limits clearly. Caleb respected them fully. He did not negotiate boundaries. He did not test flexibility. He treated each limit as final until changed by her. When she said no, he accepted it. When she said wait, he waited. This acceptance demonstrated growth. He understood that trust grew when boundaries were honored without complaint. Caleb recognized Madeline's authority came from experience. She had carried responsibility alone. Her standards protected stability. He did not frame limits as rejection. He framed them as structure. Accepting limits required humility. It demanded patience without resentment. Caleb learned that respect shown during restriction mattered more than behavior during freedom. Madeline observed quietly. She noted consistency. Trust does not announce its arrival. It forms through repeated alignment. Caleb stayed aligned. Trust developed slowly. Noor watched carefully. She engaged when comfortable. She withdrew when uncertain. Her brother remained observant. He measured reactions. He noticed follow-through. Caleb allowed this pace. He did not rush closeness. He did not demand affection. He showed interest without pressure. He participated without directing. Trust grew through presence, through predictability, through respect. Caleb learned to celebrate small moments, shared laughter, calm conversation, simple routines. He did not label progress. He let it exist. The twins began to include him naturally, without instruction, without hesitation. This trust was not emotional release. It was quiet acceptance. Caleb understood its value deeply. Fatherhood taught Caleb humility, not weakness, awareness. He learned that rights do not create connection. Responsibility does. Humility required listening before speaking, waiting before acting, learning before leading. Caleb embraced this shift fully. He stopped thinking about what he missed. He focused on what he could offer now. This approach reshaped his understanding of masculinity. Strength lived in consistency. Authority lived in restraint. Parenthood did not elevate him. It grounded him. He understood now that presence without entitlement creates space for trust. Parenthood starts with humility, not rights, and Caleb committed to that truth without condition. The house settled into quiet once the twins fell asleep. Noor's breathing evened out first. Her brother followed soon after, his hand still resting near her door as if checking one last time. Madeline closed their rooms gently and moved through the hallway without rushing. This was a night she had already decided would matter. Caleb waited in the living room. He did not scroll his phone. He did not distract himself. He sat still, aware that silence carried weight here. Madeline took her seat across from him. Not beside. Across. She folded her hands calmly. Her posture stayed composed. This was not an emotional outburst. It was a measured conversation. She looked at him for a moment before speaking, as if confirming alignment within herself. "This is not about the past," she said evenly. "It's about the future." Caleb nodded. He understood that tone. It meant clarity, not comfort. The room held no tension, only seriousness. Madeline had reached a point where observation had given her enough information. Words would now define direction. This night was not about repair. It was about decision. Madeline did not soften her words. "You do not get another chance," she said. "You get a choice." She let the sentence stand. She explained nothing further at first. She watched how he received it, how he carried it. Caleb did not interrupt. He did not ask for clarification. He stayed present. Madeline continued, "I rebuilt my life to be safe. For them. For me. I will not gamble with that." Her voice remained steady, not defensive, not sharp. "This is not about effort. It's about consistency. It's about what you do when no one is watching." She was not threatening. She was informing. Madeline believed warnings mattered only when spoken clearly. Ambiguity invited confusion. She refused that. "This choice does not come with reassurance," she added. "I will not remind you what you promised." She paused. "If you choose this life, you choose it fully. If not, we stop here." This was her final test. Madeline understood the difference between choice and second chances. Second chances focus on repair. Choice focuses on commitment. She had no interest in restarting something fragile. She required something intentional. Second chances often come with urgency. Choice requires patience. Madeline wanted to see how Caleb defined responsibility without pressure, without fear of loss forcing behavior. She believed real commitment showed itself in ordinary days, in repetition, in restraint. This was why she framed the moment this way. If he stayed, it would not be because she asked. It would be because he decided. Madeline removed herself from the equation emotionally. She centered the children, their stability, their future. She did not offer encouragement. She did not offer doubt. She offered clarity. This choice would reveal who Caleb was becoming, not who he wanted to be seen as. And she would accept the result without regret. Caleb did not speak immediately. He absorbed her words fully. He did not search for the right reply. He searched for truth. "I understand," he said finally. No qualifiers followed. He did not promise perfection. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not speak about love. "I will not ask you to trust me," he continued. "I will give you reasons to." His voice stayed calm, his posture steady. "I choose this life," he said, "not because I want it to work, because I am prepared to live it correctly." Madeline watched him closely. He did not ask what that required. He already knew. This response mattered because it did not ask for validation. It accepted accountability. Caleb understood that words ended here. Only rememberable behavior would matter next. Caleb proved his choice through time. Not immediately, not dramatically. He showed up when expected. He followed routines without comment. He accepted correction without defense. When mistakes happened, he acknowledged them without explanation. He did not seek praise. He did not ask if he was doing enough. He stayed consistent. Madeline watched quietly. She tracked patterns, not moments. Weeks passed, then months. Caleb did not relax his discipline. He did not revert under comfort. This consistency mattered more than intensity ever could. Madeline noticed how the twins responded, how ease replaced alertness, how routines absorbed him naturally. Trust did not return suddenly. It settled gradually. Proof replaced promise, and proof carried weight. Madeline's test was never about control. It was about safety. She believed trust returned only through proof, not promises. Caleb met that standard by understanding it. He did not rush outcomes. He did not seek reassurance. He allowed trust to grow at its own pace. Madeline respected that. She did not announce forgiveness. She demonstrated acceptance through inclusion. This was not a reward. It was recognition of alignment. Trust did not return to what it was. It evolved, and that evolution held strength. Madeline's final test succeeded because it required integrity from both sides. Choice created clarity. Proof created trust. And trust, once earned, stood on solid ground. The decision to marry did not arrive as an announcement. It emerged naturally, after months of shared rhythm and steady alignment. No proposal scene, no dramatic pause, just an agreement reached through lived consistency. Madeline did not need convincing. Caleb did not need to persuade. The question answered itself through daily behavior. They spoke about marriage the same way they spoke about schedules and boundaries. Calmly, practically, with intention. This was not about reclaiming the past. It was about defining the future. They agreed on what mattered: stability for the children, clarity between them, accountability without performance. Marriage became a container for what already existed. It was not meant to change dynamics. It was meant to formalize commitment. Neither sought validation, neither needed witnesses. They chose timing that fit their lives, not expectations. This decision carried weight because it was quiet, because it followed proof. It was not romanticized. It was grounded. And that grounding made it real. They married without an audience. No guests, no cameras, no speeches. The space held only what mattered. The officiant, the four of them, the moment. Madeline wore simplicity. Caleb did the same. There was no symbolism layered with meaning. The meaning lived in presence. They did not invite commentary. They did not seek approval. The absence of audience removed pressure. It allowed honesty to breathe. They exchanged vows that reflected reality, not promises of perfection. Commitments to consistency, to transparency, to restraint. Caleb spoke of responsibility. Madeline spoke of safety. No one applauded. No one recorded. They stood together without spectacle. The quiet affirmed their intention. This marriage did not exist for narrative. It existed for function. The strongest commitments do not require display. They stand without observation. This moment belonged only to them. Nor stood between them. Calm, curious, her brother stood beside her, steady and observant. The children were not symbols, they were participants. Madeline and Caleb wanted them present because family was the point, not ceremony. The twins did not understand legal language. They understood presence. They watched their parents stand still, speak clearly, hold hands without tension. This moment did not confuse them. It grounded them. Madeline noticed Noor's calm attention. Caleb noticed the boy's quiet acceptance. They had already lived inside this family. The marriage did not change structure. It affirmed it. Including the children ensured transparency. Nothing hidden. Nothing postponed. This union did not start something new. It stabilized what existed. The twins remained central, not secondary. And that positioning mattered. Marriage shifted logistics, not values. They built life intentionally. Schedules discussed openly. Responsibilities divided clearly. Boundaries revisited, as needed. Caleb did not assume authority. He continued to earn trust through consistency. Madeline did not relinquish standards. She allowed partnership where reliability showed. They planned days with children in mind. They structured evenings around routine. Disagreements occurred. They addressed them directly, calmly. They did not confuse comfort with neglect. They maintained communication even during ease. This marriage did not remove effort. It required it. Intentional living replaced assumption. They checked in regularly, adjusted as needed. Life built this way did not feel heavy. It felt aligned. They moved forward without noise. And that quiet strength carried them. This marriage did not seek recognition. It did not announce success. It demonstrated it. Madeline understood that applause fades. Stability lasts. Caleb understood that commitment shown privately holds more value than promises spoken publicly. They chose quiet because quiet preserved focus. Their family thrived inside consistency. The twins grew secure. The home felt steady. The strongest commitments do not perform. They persist. This union taught a simple lesson. When love is built intentionally, it does not need witnesses. When trust is earned, it does not need explanation. Their marriage stood not as a reward for endurance, but as proof of alignment. And alignment, once reached, requires no applause. Accountability is not a statement made under pressure. It is a pattern lived when no one is watching. Caleb learned this after loss, not before it. He learned that taking responsibility does not end with regret. It begins there. He did not frame accountability as punishment. He framed it as alignment. Actions matching values. Presence matching intention. Silence replaced by consistency. Accountability asked him to stop explaining and start doing. It asked him to accept limits without complaint. It asked him to rebuild trust without requesting comfort in return. This kind of accountability reshaped his identity. It removed shortcuts. It removed excuses. It demanded patience. Many people apologize. Fewer people change patterns. Caleb's growth came from staying where accountability lived, even when progress felt slow, even when no one affirmed him. This story does not celebrate guilt. It recognizes responsibility as the bridge between harm and repair. Accountability is quiet work. It does not rush outcomes. It sustains them. Fatherhood did not arrive for Caleb through biology alone. It arrived through behavior. He earned proximity by respecting boundaries. He earned trust by honoring routines. He earned presence by staying consistent. The twins did not owe him closeness. They responded to reliability. This distinction matters. Parenthood is not a title handed over. It is a role built daily through restraint and care. Caleb learned that showing up meant more than appearing. It meant listening. It meant adapting. It meant accepting correction without defense. Fatherhood demanded humility before authority, patience before affection. The children noticed what he did, not what he said. They measured safety through repetition. This kind of fatherhood does not demand recognition. It invites trust. Caleb became a father by earning space in their lives, not by claiming it. And that earning never stopped. Love did not return through grand gestures. It returned through discipline. Discipline to communicate clearly. Discipline to respect boundaries. Discipline to remain consistent, even when comfort returned. Presence became the language of repair. Madeline did not reopen her life to words. She responded to alignment, to proof, to sustained behavior. Love rebuilt this way stands stronger. It rests on observation, not hope. This story shows that love does not survive on intention alone. It survives on discipline applied daily. Presence without entitlement creates safety. Safety allows trust to grow. Their relationship did not return to what it was. It evolved into something steadier. Love rebuilt through discipline does not rush intimacy. It protects it. This kind of love does not demand belief. It earns it. Every major shift in this story came from quiet choices. Madeline leaving without confrontation, Caleb staying without chasing, parenting without bitterness, rebuilding without performance. These choices carried cost, loneliness, uncertainty, delay, but they protected integrity. Quiet choices often feel invisible. They are not celebrated. They are not affirmed publicly, yet they shape futures more reliably than loud decisions. This story reminds us that dignity often appears when no one is watching. Madeline chose safety over explanation. Caleb chose growth over relief. These choices did not erase pain. They prevented further harm. Quiet choices require courage. They demand patience without guarantee. And they change lives slowly, but deeply. Pause here. If you were in this position, what would you choose? Would you stay and negotiate your values? Would you leave to protect your peace? Would you wait to earn trust, even without promise of return? There are no easy answers, only honest ones. Stories like this reflect real decisions people face without clear guidance. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience adds meaning to this conversation. Your perspective matters, because these choices do not belong only to characters. They belong to anyone navigating trust, responsibility, and repair. If this story made you reflect, take a moment to like this video. It helps these narratives reach people who need them. Subscribe if you want more stories grounded in real consequences, steady growth, and meaningful lessons. Share this with someone who values responsibility over performance. Engagement keeps these stories alive. Your support allows space for narratives that respect intelligence and experience. Thank you for staying through the full journey. Children do not owe reconciliation. Parents earn proximity. This truth anchors the entire story. Repair requires humility. Presence requires discipline. Trust requires time. Nothing here was rushed. Nothing was granted without proof. That is why it lasted. The strongest relationships are not defined by forgiveness alone. They are shaped by behavior after harm. This story closes with alignment, not fantasy. And alignment, once earned, holds weight. Thank you for listening.